It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah, we'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Another day of Olympic coverage here on the show. Team USA, South Sudan, coming up later this afternoon in basketball. We have a full recap coming up from everything that's been going on at Paris, the Olympic Games. Thanks for joining us here on the show. I'm Craig Mish. Our edition here on the program continues. We dive in with Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report. He'll be with us on the program. Also, Bill Bender from Sporting News with the very latest updates from Paris as well. And a full recap of everything that happened in Major League Baseball at the trade deadline yesterday. It was absolutely insane for me. I don't know how it was for you, but we'll get to that and a whole lot more here in just a second. But let's begin with the very latest from the games in Paris. And we begin with the idea and application from Canada to essentially try and reduce the 6-point deduction that they had because of the drone incident, which Canada used to view another team and another country's club to try and get an advantage. Their appeal right now against the soccer team with their deduction has been denied. The panel of 3 judges dismissed Canada's appeal and has been confirmed that the 6-point deduction has been instituted by FIFA. It is done. 2 assistant coaches used drones to spy on New Zealand's practices last week before the Olympic Games. And naturally, now that this has been thrown out, we got a statement from the Court of Arbitration of Sport. And here it is. The application filed by the Canadian Olympic Committee and Canada Soccer in relation to the 6-point deduction imposed on the women's soccer team for the football tournament at the Olympic Games in Paris has been officially dismissed. Don't fly a drone over another team's practice. Lesson learned there. Canada, I mean, has virtually no shot of winning the gold because of that. Now, over to Major League Baseball. How can we do 40, 50 transactions in 2 minutes here on the show? I don't know. We probably would need another show. But let's go through some of the bigger ones that happened yesterday. The Los Angeles Dodgers get another starting pitcher for their postseason run. Jack Flaherty ends up going to the Dodgers from the Tigers. So if Yamamoto is healthy and Clayton Kershaw is healthy and Glasnow is healthy, in addition to some of the other players that they acquired, the Dodgers will be formidable coming up in September. The Padres have added Tanner Scott from the Marlins. They traded 4 prospects over there. Scott goes to the back end of the bullpen in San Diego. The Orioles were very busy at the trade deadline, acquiring Trevor Rogers from Miami and also Eloy Jimenez from the Chicago White Sox. They also got Gregory Soto to add to the back of their bullpen as well. As far as the San Francisco Giants are concerned, not quite waving the white flag, but certainly trading some pieces. as they moved Jorge Soler a couple of days ago, and then yesterday moving Alex Cobb to Cleveland. So the Guardians fortified their rotation as well. Luis Garcia and Lucas Sims go to the Red Sox. The Pirates get the bat that they were looking for in Miami's Brian De La Cruz and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who signed that deal in the offseason with the Blue Jays. He goes to the Pirates as well. But arguably, outside of the Tampa Bay Rays, the team that made the most moves at the deadline ended up yesterday overtaking them in the Miami Marlins. The Marlins acquired 14, 15 different prospects yesterday, of which I was trying to report on all of them as much as possible. They traded 2 relief pitchers. They traded a starting pitcher. They traded a bat. Then they traded another bat. I mean, it was hard to keep up with all the moves they made yesterday. Peter Bendix, the president of baseball operations, released a statement yesterday saying, good things coming for the future, and he'll talk to the media today in St. Petersburg. Meanwhile, in St. Petersburg, they're looking for a new stadium, and it could potentially now be happening for the Tampa Bay Rays. The government backing that they needed to build a long sought-after ballpark in Pinellas County has been approved. It's a 30,000-seat stadium. The county voted 5-2 to approve spending. It's about $312.5 million for their share of the ballpark. Overall, they're looking at a cost of $1.3 billion. In order to get the funding, they have to agree to a 30-year lease. And there's a redevelopment program going on in Pinellas County, over $6 billion. So the Rays, new stadium coming there. Mike Trout and his rehab shut down, unfortunately, on Tuesday. He had a setback with his recovery from meniscus surgery. He had surgery on May 3rd. They also placed Anthony Rendon on the injured list. You've heard that story before. Baltimore Orioles make a move today. They have recalled Jackson Holliday from AAA, so get set to see one of the top prospects in baseball. Last night in baseball, the Yankees end up beating the Phillies again. Jazz Chisholm Jr. homers not once but twice. He has been an absolute monster for them and doing things that they've never seen in the history of the franchise in his first couple of games. This afternoon, they will play again. Phillies minus 136 on the money line against the Yankees. That game coming up at 12:35 Eastern. Nestor Cortez against Christopher Sanchez. And then also 12:35 Eastern today. Second game on the board, we've got the Orioles taking on the Blue Jays. Naturally, Orioles are going to be big favorites there. Total of 9 on the board. Back to the Olympics we go. We'll give you some results. Simone Biles, U.S. Gymnastics, they win the gold in Paris after a total score of 171.296. The Americans defeated Italy, silver medalists, by nearly 6 points. There was almost a 7-point gap for the bronze medal. Biles scored a total of 14.666 points, first gold since 2016. Also, the triathlon finally underway. E. coli be damned. The Olympics going on right now in that river in Seine, S-E-I-N-E, I believe is how it's pronounced. Days of concerns over water quality, and that thing is underway right now. So good to see that they're starting there. Okay, Novak Djokovic, let's go to tennis in Paris, striving for the gold. One of his last remaining accomplishments. He has a victory today, 7-5, 6-3 over somebody from Germany. His name is Dominic Koepfer, Koepfer. Hopefully I got that one right. Gold medal on the line here for Djokovic, who has certainly a shot of capturing that this weekend. Also, interesting story in the competition that they're calling the Olympic 3x3 basketball. Former sharpshooter Jimmer Furnett made its debut. The Americans fell to Serbia 22-14 on Tuesday night, and not the best performance, at least to get things started there. In addition, there's some news from the National Football League coming out today. No, not with any of the players, but for those of you who are used to watching NFL games and seeing the referees bring out the chain to determine if a team has a first down or not, looks like that could be completely going away, going to a digital system that we could see implemented as soon as this season. So get ready, especially in the preseason, to see those sticks and chains go away and more of a digital system implemented. Big story from the NFL today. DJ Moore got traded to the Chicago Bears, and as they build for the future, they're paying more for it. 4 years, $110 million contract extension for Caleb Williams' is top target. $82.6 million guaranteed. It's third for a wide receiver on a single contract in NFL history. Justin Jefferson has that title. Lions defensive end John Kaminsky suffers a torn MCL in practice, could be back for the playoffs. 6'5", 285 pounds. 2 quarterback hurries in the postseason, a big part of what they did last year for Detroit on defense. Not going to be part of their regular season, at least for now. The head coach of the New York Jets, Robert Saleh, trying to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy and says that he will sit out the preseason. He is expected to start the first game of the NFL season, but that third game on August 24th is the only one that they're deciding as to whether or not Rodgers will play. And also, Army is looking to recoup $6 million in business news from the United Football League, $11 million marketing deal with the UFL, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson saying their partnership failed to yield a single new recruit from the UFL, according to a military.com report. An Army spokesman told military.com the service is in the process of working with the UFL to determine the final amount that they're hoping to recoup from the deal. Not the best news continuing for these alternate football leagues here in the United States. All right, coming up next, the latest from Paris. Bill Bender joins us. Is Team USA going to cover this 29-point spread coming up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? He will tell you next. We'll also dive into some potential player points totals. Don't go away.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead if they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, Skeen doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Mustache is falling off. It's got to go. Skeen's got another strikeout there. I don't want to take it. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Our coverage of the Olympics in Paris continues and will continue throughout the week. Make sure you keep it right here to SportsGrid. Some, really intense betting going on right now, and the opportunities are there. For those of you who have logged in to FanDuel, DraftKings, or some of these other betting sites, you can see that virtually all of the Olympic Games is bettable, which is not something that I anticipated. I don't know how Bill Bender feels about that. Maybe he's getting ready to bet some badminton or breakdancing. Bill, thanks for coming on. This is a wild time to be a sports fan, to see so many sports that we've never even watched be displayed in Paris.
Oh, it's fun. And I think the Olympics are fun. The Summer Olympics have always been great for that, and these new opportunities to bet. As you know, I do college football for us at Sporting News, but this is an opportunity to stray off that lane a little bit, help with our Olympic coverage, and having fun, like I said. So as we get into this men's basketball as pool play continues, there are definitely a couple opportunities here over the next few days.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, we have a game going on right now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then the next one is at 3 o'clock Eastern on the men's side. And that is South Sudan taking on Team USA. South Sudan in the exhibition portion of the Olympics gave the U.S. a run for their money, with LeBron James needing a big bucket down the stretch to even win that game. Point spread, though, today, Bill, not representing a team that could potentially compete with Team USA, as the Americans are 29.5-point favorites. And what's really interesting to me is this total is 191 points for a South Sudan team that I just don't know where they're going to get their offense from here to hit that. Maybe I'm just the one that's looking at this a little differently, but can go a number of ways, Bill, in this one. Team USA could come out and say, hey, look, we're going to pay you back for what you did to us a week ago. Or maybe South Sudan's actually better than we thought. Maybe this is a close game. How do you see this playing out today?
Well, a couple things. With that over, South Sudan can score, 80 or more points, even dating back to the World Cup last season. They've only taken one loss by more than 30 points since that World Cup. That was against Serbia last year. And to some extent, I don't think it'll be as close this time, but that score wasn't completely a fluke. They can put the ball in the basket a little bit. Carlik Jones had a triple-double in the exhibition game. I guess the other side of it for Team USA will be, can they shoot the three effectively? They did not do that the first meeting. They shot 25%. Biggest difference, as you know, Kevin Durant will be playing in this game, and I don't think Kevin Durant missed a shot he hit his first 8 shots in the first game against Serbia. So it really is kind of a pick your score. Again, a college football reference. I never like 30-point spreads, even if it's Texas A&M and a MAC school. I'm probably going to take the underdog to cover and take the over in this game, but you just don't know which Team USA will come out. I don't think they're going to be surprised this time like they were when they were down 14.5 in the first meeting.
Yeah, you can tell Bill's in college football mode here. And by the way, how many days until the first game? You must know. How many days? It's right there, right?
Camp opens. I mean, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have week 0, so we're catching up with all that preview coverage. I will make one small joke. Last week, I had a typo in my story. I had a Emeka Egbuka as Emeka Okafor. So I had to go in and correct that real quick. I had my wires crossed between basketball and college football last week.
Yeah, and by the way, Bill will be with us throughout the college football season. I know games are coming up here. We're turning the clock to August. It is college football season. All right, let's look at some player props here, because I think maybe these are a little bit more doable than the last odds we showed. And those are some individual player numbers here. Embiid is 12-plus points at plus 102. We have Booker, 10-plus points, plus 118. Holiday, the same at plus 120. Curry's number a little bit higher, but so is the plus money at 150. And there's another Holiday prop. And then Anthony Davis with a rebounds prop. Certainly not advisable for anybody who's sports betting to bet on every single prop on the board. So, Bill, I'll ask you, of those that I just mentioned, is there any one that you like more than another?
Embiid. A little bit of struggle at certain points, but I like him to be a difference maker in this game, especially in the paint. I think he hits that. And then Devin Booker, if I'm chasing one, maybe it's a couple threes. I mentioned that 3-point shooting number. I always look at that because Team USA was hitting their threes in the second game. So all it takes is for Devin Booker to knock a couple of those down and hit a couple layups, and he's at 10 points before you know it. So if I was chasing 2 props there, I think I would go with Joel Embiid and Devin Booker.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move over to soccer. I want to flip to soccer now from basketball here. So we have women's soccer today at 1 p.m. Eastern, an hour and 40 minutes if you're interested in betting this. The odds right now have Team USA as a heavy favorite. They're plus 280, but because, Bill, of the dynamics of potential ties in soccer, which happen more frequently in soccer than any other sport, it's plus 430 on the money line for a tie. For Australia to win, it's 6-1. That's the tough dynamic here all the time, Bill, with betting soccer. You could be on the right side and still lose by taking Team USA.
Take the over. You can take the over in this game. And now it's worth noting that 2 of the last 4 matches between Australia and the United States have been draws. So, but I think Team USA, 6 goals the first 2 games, plus 6 in their first 2 games. They've looked really good so far. Mallory Swanson's been a force. I'm going to take Team USA to win this game outright. And I just think this team is focused. They get through the pool play. Now, Australia, like I said, has been a challenge for them. But the all-time series definitely favors Team USA. I do think that both teams will score a little bit, and this could be a 3-2, 4-3 type game. But with those offenses going the way they do, I'm going to go with Team USA to cover.
All right, minus 280 there on the money line, so be careful with that one, Bill. As far as winning the gold, Spain has moved up very close as far as the odds are concerned over on FanDuel. Team USA is still the favorite, but as you see the way Spain is playing, they're right there as well. Any preference between those two?
Well, I mean, I'm obviously going to root for Team USA, but that's
Right.
a be careful for me too because of the way that Spain's playing. So if you're going to bet somebody, I think it's them. I think you're headed towards a situation where those two will be in the championship game. Like you just said to me, be careful, but I'm going to go with Team USA there as well.
All right, Bill. I can't wait to see you here on this show with odds for week 0. I don't know if it's next week or the week after, but I know we are getting closer to that. I honestly cannot wait, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, no problem. Craig, thank you.
All right, Bill Bender. Phenomenal job for Sporting News covering college football and Olympics. Who knew? SportsGrid Sound Off is next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, Skeen doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Dash is falling off. It's got to go. Skeen's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's your opportunity now to check our show out, to hear from some of the most intriguing players in sports, maybe some of our social media correspondents as well. We do this every single day at this time, so that means 11:24 Eastern on your clock. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, most popular player going right now in Major League Baseball is on the New York Yankees. Yeah, hate to say it, but it's true. Not because of Jazz, just because it's the Yankees. Jazz Chisholm Jr., former Marlin, has been traded over to the Yankees, and he has hit 4 home runs in like 72 hours. He's had an incredible start to his career in pinstripes, no question about that. Also playing an effective third base for them as well. One of the players in the Yankees decided he didn't want to play third. Jazz, who's went from second to center, will play third, will play wherever you want. After the game yesterday, after 2 more home runs and a Yankee victory, Jazz talked about how it feels to be playing for New York.
I wouldn't say I'm developing more power. I feel like I've always had the power. It's just more like swinging at my pitch and getting the right pitch and knowing what I want to do with that pitch and everything like that. And I feel like the guys in here are already helping me in that way.
Why do you think you're so comfortable over there at third base so soon?
I mean, I was a shortstop all my life. It's just like when I was in the minor leagues, when they had the shift going on, I had to play third base because I was the only guy on that side as a shortstop. So I feel like super comfortable just going back over there and doing the same thing.
Yeah, Jazz is going to love those cameras in New York. Going to do really well. Hopefully for Jazz, he never has a slump, because then our producer Frank is going to get all upset and say he's a bum. Yeah, that's the way that these New York fans work. All right, now, as far as one of the teams that's been very aggressive at the trade deadline, yes, the Marlins, yes, the Rays, but how about the San Diego Padres? They've traded a lot of players in their farm system over the last few months. The first trade was getting Luis Arias, making that a trade with him. The second one, of course, was yesterday, trading for Tanner Scott. And so the president of baseball operations, A.J. Preller, clearly under some pressure to win right now. The question is, does he have anybody left for the future?
I think, honestly, like a part of us being able to have these conversations just continues to be like the players that we're able to select, develop. And honestly, like I think the depth of the system, honestly, I think we felt like, that we have some guys, some pitching in our system, some guys that have taken some steps this year. That I know, like by the publications and the rankings, 3 of the players that we traded, Robbie Snelling, Adam Mazur, and Dylan Lesko. We thought we think highly of that group. I expect those guys to pitch in the big leagues and do really good things. We also, though, are super excited about about a group right behind those guys and that are pushing those guys. And in some ways, I think for us, when we talked about our system and our depth, that was a strength for us, honestly. Was looking at the pitching side of things and where we were at from that standpoint. And, again, some really healthy conversation amongst our evaluators and our coaching staff over the last few weeks and months about this guy or that guy. And it may not be the mainstream guy that may be out there in terms of in the rankings. We've got some guys that we feel pretty good about. And, again, same thing in the big leagues. Like you look up and whether it's a Matt Waldron this year going up and pitching well, or Randy Vasquez. Pitching comes from a lot of different ways, and we feel like in the system we've got some guys that have taken real steps and are going to contribute here. And I think that enabled us to at least have conversations on some of our quote-unquote top-ranked guys, et cetera. So.
All right, we'll see how the farm system works for the Padres. How will it work on the golf course for the Olympics? Our contributor, Smiley Kaufman, partner here at SportsGrid, weighs in.
Because we actually had Colin Morikawa come on the podcast in the last month, and he actually spoke about how he added 2 events earlier in the season to make a push to make it on this Olympics roster. And we've all seen how well Colin's played this year. He mentioned that back in Bay Hill when he looked at the list, he wasn't even close to making it. And look where he is now. He's on the team. So there's guys that really want to be there, and there's other guys that maybe don't and just want to have a good time and enjoy the Olympics. But I actually am really interested, too, because the Olympics is another opportunity for the LIV golf players like Jon Rahm, Joaquin Niemann, especially Joaquin Niemann, to go have a week. Let's say they win the gold medal. Not only do they win that, but it's a huge jump for them as far as official world golf ranking points, as you get world ranking points in this week. But having a gold medal attached to a Joaquin Niemann name, that carries a little bit of weight in getting into the major championships for a guy that's not earning world ranking points.
I think right now the way that golf works in the Olympics is just simply trying at this point to look at the odds and determine how many of these players are really taking this seriously. I know it sounds crazy, but beyond the gold medal, if you ain't going to win, why are you there? We'll be right back.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them. and they were on them all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, Skeens doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Dash is falling off. It's got to go. Skeens got another strikeout there. I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on, I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report. We're going to dive into a number of topics here, so stick with us. Rush Street Interactive, one topic we'll cover. We'll also talk about earnings reports. They're coming out for various sports betting operators, so we will go over that as well. Matt, thanks for coming on. Let's start off with BetMGM as they jockey for that third spot, second spot, first spot in sports betting. Their new ideas, or maybe old ideas, becoming new again for acquiring new customers. Thanks again. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Craig. You know that my favorite time of year is earnings season, when we get to, kind of pull the curtain back and see what these companies are doing. And BetMGM is kind of a difficult one to get a read on sometimes. Remember, they're owned by two separate publicly traded companies, and neither of those companies have reported their public numbers yet. So BetMGM, in a release yesterday, couldn't really say a whole lot, but what it did say was interesting. It said that it grew active iGaming customers 18% in the second quarter. It's notable because there was nothing to stimulate that growth, right? It was just the second quarter. There were no new states that came online, and that was up from 9% growth in the first quarter. And so that is leading MGM to say, we think we have something going here with these iGaming customers. We're going to spend more than we thought we were going to acquire them. Now, if you remember, Entain and MGM, the two owners, they agreed that they would need to invest a little bit more in BetMGM this year. Entain had an interim CEO that admitted after the previous CEO was gone that they didn't do the best job at getting American-focused products to BetMGM in those early days when grabbing customer share was so important. And so they're looking at that now, but interestingly, it said that the additional investment in customer acquisition was going to be funded by debt. And that isn't necessarily something I saw coming. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. Neither company has said how much they've invested in BetMGM this year yet. But to bring on debt is a little bit out of left wing, right? Now we can look at that and say maybe they're preparing to spin BetMGM off into its own company. BetMGM is getting close to profitability, and these digital companies have done pretty well when they've had an IPO. So that could be something that they're doing. And you start to play with the balance sheet when you're thinking about that too. Having some debt is better than having no debt in situations. And so, it could be one of those reasons. Either way, though, we know that BetMGM is definitely taking the iGaming race seriously in the U.S., and we know that they want to fight to be top in the U.S. They were at one point. We just found out today, Craig, a new report from Eilers and Krejcik that DraftKings took the #1 iGaming spot in the second quarter. So BetMGM is still fighting from behind, but they're confident in what they're doing.
Yeah, no, and look, I think that all of these reports, when they come in, the great opportunity not only is to see the revenue, but also, as you say, to be on these calls and to hear some of their ideas. Speaking of which, Caesars, another company that's kind of in that mix with BetMGM and some of the others after FanDuel and DraftKings, a new structural hold target that, certainly will definitely be intriguing to see what they say their earnings are. They changed things around a little bit, Matt. So tell us what happened there. Let's circle back, and then why this report will be interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. They did raise how much was expected from their structural hold. They're now looking at 8.5%. They didn't hit that in the second quarter, but that's okay. We did see growth coming from Caesars in the second quarter, and not necessarily from the revenue line. In fact, revenue was flat when it came to sports betting, but they held 7.2% across the board, and that's up from 6.4% last year, and that was mostly attributed to an increase in how many bets are turning into parlay bets and same game parlays and all of that we've spoken about, Craig, that we know that these companies are pushing users toward those higher margin bets. And that's helping them survive in these slow periods and the periods where they really get walloped by some bad results. And so Caesars is feeling confident in what it's doing there too. And they are also doing very well in iGaming as well, Craig. They saw their iGaming revenue jump, I believe it was 33%. They're bringing in more customers. They're launching a new brand. They are branding their new iGaming app after the Horseshoe brand of casinos. That'll be live alongside their Caesars Palace brand online gaming app. So there's a lot going on for Caesars right now. They did say that they are not interested at all in any of the Penn Entertainment talks. Remember, Penn is potentially up for sale, with a couple of companies maybe interested. We haven't heard anything, too concrete on that. But Caesars is confident that they're going to hit this $500 million adjusted EBITDA rate for the digital segment, and they're going to start seeing that next year. It's going to hit that run rate, which means it'll eventually hit a rate where it would be making $500 million annualized. And CEO Tom Reeg understands that the analysts aren't exactly calling for that right now. The consensus numbers don't show that that's what's expected from the market. But he said, you'll eventually believe. You will eventually believe our iGaming is growing well, our sports betting is growing well, and you will eventually believe when you see that we hit that target. One thing that's helping with them hitting that target, Craig, is they have sponsorship costs that are falling off. Remember, all of these companies went nuts signing sponsorships with sports teams and stadiums and leagues and everything. And they wound up not moving the needle as much as the companies expected that they would.
Gotcha.
And so Caesars has been really happy to see these costs falling off. There was $605 million left to be spent at the end of last year. That's down to $570 million now. So it's looking pretty good. They're falling that off. They say that's going to fall to the bottom line and help them. So a lot going on for Caesars right now. But frankly, Craig, we're starting to see that, in a BetMGM and a Caesars, that the product on the sports betting side is improving. And we're going to get to the point where those products are going to be close enough to FanDuel and DraftKings that customers may start moving to one of these guys if they have a loyalty account or what have you, or just simply have a strong preference. So it's going to be interesting. This football season is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, especially if any of these companies jumps into that range of FanDuel and DraftKings. Well, one that's fairly, I think, to say not in that range, but you've covered them pretty extensively, is Bet Rivers. And they're obviously, even for being a little company, making some very big strides. I know Rush Street Interactive is the company. Bet Rivers is the parent company of that. And they seem to be, according to Matt, your story from last week that I read, pretty thrilled with the development that they've had.
They're really happy with how they've been operating, Craig. They report their earnings tonight, and it was interesting. Bet Rivers is usually pretty conservative. They don't go out and market a whole lot, and so they don't really get too bullish on what they expect from digital and sports betting in specific. But they raised their adjusted EBITDA expectations after the first quarter because they had such a strong quarter, and it'll really be interesting to see if those numbers change again tonight. We know that Bet Rivers has been performing very well in my home state of Delaware. It's blown out expectations of what the market could do because we had an operator that just wasn't pulling the right levers last time. They're working to keep their costs down. They are growing in Latin America. Their stock finally just hit above $10 for the first time in a long time. So everything is going well for Bet Rivers right now and Rush Street Interactive. Will that continue after tonight? You certainly hope so for the shareholders there, because it's been close to like $3 at some point, Craig. So Bet Rivers is churning right now, and I think they are too happy with where they are and going to keep fighting for some spots.
All right. Well, let us know next week about the earnings call there. Matt, I know you'll have a busy day and night ahead of you. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Take care.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead if they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Dash is falling off. It's got to go. Ski's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Let's check in on the Houston Texans and check in with Cole Thompson. Does such a phenomenal job covering all things Texans on social media, X/Twitter, whatever it is, at Mr. Cole Thompson joins us now. Got to get an updated view on this team, Cole. I know it's been a grind the last couple of years. You started to come out of the storm, I would say, last year with an incredible draft. And now all of a sudden, being in the mix of a playoff team, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, Craig, when you look at the way this roster is constructed, they've kind of gotten that balance of being able to have not only a great rookie class and a very up-and-coming group, but also a ton of veterans that decided to join this offseason, including four-time Pro Bowler Danielle Hunter, who's coming off of a career season in Minnesota, Azeez Al-Shaair that has a great understanding about the style of defense that DeMeco Ryans wants. You also have incredible play in the backfield from Joe Mixon, who is an ideal fit for this style of offense that they want to run underneath Bobby Slowick. And of course, the headliner, Stephon Diggs, who continues to impress every single route in practice. He continues to be that veteran presence for young players like Tank Dell, John Mechie, even Nico Collins. He's being willing and adaptive to work alongside Derek Stingley Jr. and rookie cornerback Kamari Lassiter. So there is a nice blend of really talented newcomers, but really talented proven players that have already been here. And then also the guys that we expect to see more from. CJ Stroud, Will Anderson. I think you throw Tank Dell into that conversation. You're hopeful that you get a healthy Kenyon Green at left guard this year. So the expectations are high, but the morale internally with the team is also extremely high.
Yeah, and I think that's a big change from where they were a couple of years ago. And Cole, a very big surprise, I think, were the Houston Texans last year. So that's kind of where I'll begin, where the expectation level changes in sports. And you know, covering sports as well as I do, that you go from being a sleeper to a favorite, and potentially things could go the other way. Now, I know that the Texans have fortified their roster, as you mentioned, with Hunter and Mixon and Diggs and some other players as well. But going from the team no one's talking about to segments like this can change the expectation level. How are the Texans handling that?
You know, what's funny, Craig, is that when DeMeco Ryans came into the building, he immediately said, we believe we are going to win a playoff game. We believe that we are going to be a division title winner. We believe that we have a roster that's capable of time being one of the best in the AFC. And so that mantra was really the selling point last year for a lot of these players when the going got tough, when they lost some offensive linemen, when some key players in the secondary went down. We have to step up and we have to deliver for our coach because of he believed in the future of this roster well before we even saw a vision. So the expectations aren't changing. The problem is the schedule's a lot harder. You know, when you look at Jacksonville back in 2022, one thing that flies under the radar is they won the division with a fourth-place schedule and a very easy out-of-conference schedule. And so that was kind of the case last year with the Texans. Fourth-place schedule. On top of that, they played the NFC South versus what they will this year with the NFC North. And so they were kind of able to have that understanding and build that relationships of finding that unison of CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins against teams that really weren't going to give them a threat. That's not going to be the case in 2024. They got matchups against everyone in the AFC East. They have matchups against everybody in the NFC North. They have a first place schedule where they'll play 3 games over 11 days from Miami to Kansas City to then playing Baltimore on Christmas Day on Netflix for some reason. But that's the level of competition that you're going up against. So not only are people not sleeping on you, but you can't sleep on anybody else because all it takes is one bad performance after a very, what I would say, lackluster start to the season that will allow you to crumble down the hill and eventually find yourself in a similar situation to where Jacksonville went last year.
Yeah, no, and that's what we're watching for. I'm glad you gave that answer because that sounds exactly what some people could be anticipating this year. And I do want to get to their season win total. We always do this with all of our guests, ask over under. Before we do that, impact players from the draft. Everyone knows who Kamari Lassiter was. He was phenomenal on Georgia for many years as their cornerback. Beyond that, catch me up here with some of the impact players you think that we could see this year for the Texans. Kind of hard to project anybody for me outside of like a first or second round pick playing.
So Blake Fisher's going to be a name that gets brought up because of the offensive line. Last year, there were 8 different units that took the field at times. So knowing what we do about Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil, both coming off of knee surgeries, there's a shot that he plays. Right now, he's working with the first-team offense at left tackle, even though he was a right tackle his entire career at Notre Dame, minus the first game where he tore his ACL. And so now you're seeing that transition to move over to the left side. It's rocky at best, but maybe by the time that we get to week 8, week 9, he could have his feet underneath him. Kalen Bullock is a really rangy center fielder type defensive back. He gets a lot of plays on the football, whether that be a pass breakup or a turnover. but he is inconsistent when it comes to tackling. So that's going to be an area where you have to see him take that next step forward. Two players I'm really interested to see in the Hall of Fame game and how they work is Cade Stover, the tight end out of Ohio State. This was a player that C.J. Stroud wanted the Texans to target on day 3. He's a good blocker. He's a good overall red zone route runner. There's a connection there but from their time at Ohio State when he was a Heisman finalist. And Marcus Harris, the defensive lineman out of Auburn. Now with Danico Autry suspended for 6 games, somebody has got to step up at that 3-tech position. Harris was an all-SEC player last year on the Plains for a very underwhelming Tigers team. I will not be shocked to see him eventually start climbing up the pecking order if he has a good game. Also, Jawar Jordan, the running back out of Louisville, I expect him to have a role somewhere, whether that be on third down or special teams.
All right, Cole, before you go, season win total for the Houston Texans, 9.5 is the number. The juice is so high here at minus 150, so I'm not going to let you off the hook very easily here. So 9.5 is the total. If I gave you 10, what would you do? Tell me how many games you think Houston wins this season.
I'm going to take the over. I think that they will be at least a 10-win squad. I don't know if we'll see them get to 13 or 14. So, let's temper our expectations because you still got to play against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and even Tua and a defense that really is improved, and the game's going to be at home. So you're going to have that hot atmosphere in Texas when you play against Tua, which we all know he's good at. But I still feel like that with the additions that you added in defensively, another year in D'Amico Ryans' system, plus what could be an MVP caliber season, the first that we've seen in a hot minute for a second-year quarterback, there's reasons to believe that the Texans not only will win the division, but they also will finish with at least a top 3 seed in the AFC.
Awesome stuff, Cole. Very thorough. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Craig.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, Skeen doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your mustache is falling.
Mustache is falling off. It's got to go. Skeen's got another strikeout that I don't want to take. As soon as I take it off, they're going to give up a run. I'm trying to keep it on until he comes out of the game. It's all over the place. Come on. I'm superstitious.
He's got 10. He's got 10 Ks.
He's cruising. Wow.
They pulled Skeens, by the way.
Yeah, they pulled him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. As a reminder, plenty of Olympic coverage coming your way all day long here on SportsGrid. We've got you covered every single event, every single betting opportunity all weekend long, all through next week right here on the grid. All right, now it's time for us to wrap up the show. We will focus on a number of topics, a little bit of fighting between two teams that know each other pretty well. We'll talk about the Hug Watch, what that is in Major League Baseball, and also hit on a broadcaster finding a way to incorporate some crazy words. It's time now for some last licks. Detroit Tigers pitcher Tyler Holton came up with a really cool idea, and Jason Benetti, who calls the Tigers games on television, executed it to a T. Holton thought it would be a funny idea on the broadcast to come up with words prior to the broadcast that would be unbeknownst to anyone that Jason Benetti would have to say on the air. And boy, did Benetti come through. Now, these words included, remember, these are words not said normally on a broadcast, Fortnite, pineapple. I mean, this is actually true. And not only did Benetti say these words on the broadcast, he flawlessly incorporated several, just sort of wild words on TV. How they come up with these ideas to me is so incredible. And the fact that they got a player on the Tigers to give the words to Benetti to say on the air, really great job by them, I thought. And this is why I think it's pretty much established that, I don't know where Jason Benetti is on the pecking order for play-by-play men on television, but he's certainly right close to or near the top. All right, so now there was a TBT game played, which is sort of like a high-level kids game, fair to say, in the state of Louisville and the state of Kentucky, excuse me. So basically what happened is they played this TBT game, and after the game, the fans there decided to get into a little scuffle. And this is between fans of both Louisville and Kentucky. Now, if you know anything about Blue Bloods, you know this. These two teams do not like each other. And to put them in a very small spot in a basketball arena where they're playing against each other, you never know what can happen. And a fight ensued after the game. Former players that played for the Cardinal and former players that played for the Wildcats ended up duking it out. And the comments afterward were, hey, look, what did you think was going to happen? You put these two teams in the same place, you're going to get a fight. And that's what we got yesterday, or 2 days ago, in this TBT game. Unfortunately, can't show you the video because of rights, but you certainly could Google it and find it there for yourself. All right, next video piece. I think we probably could have shown this today, but we're gonna just tell you about it and show you a little clip here. Yesterday was one of the wildest days I've ever had covering Major League Baseball. In case you missed it, the Miami Marlins made so many trades yesterday that it was impossible to keep up. Between the time we were on the show, which we were breaking news yesterday, all the way through 6 p.m. Eastern. In fact, so much so that the manager of the Marlins, Skip Schumacher, had to leave the clubhouse several times to go out to the field to tell his players that they were traded in St. Petersburg. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. Schumacher would learn of a trade. He'd walk out to the field, tell the player. Learn of a trade, walk out to the field, and tell the player. So I don't even know that we would call this even Hug Watch anymore, because of how many times he had to give hugs. But talk about a wild day for a franchise, trading virtually a third of your 26-man roster on one day and getting 15 prospects back in return. That's what happened yesterday with the Miami Marlins. And that's what happened with me. That'll end the show for me today here as well. A reminder, coming up next is the early line, followed by Scott Kaplan. He's in the house. What a great show Scott does. Make sure you tune in at 1 o'clock for Kaplan and crew. Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern, game time decisions after that, followed by in-game live prime time and Sports Rage tonight with Gabe. Also, I want to thank our guests on the program today. We have Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report. Thought he did a fantastic job covering everything for us today. And for those of you who are interested in Houston Texans football, you may have missed Cole Thompson. You can follow him on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson, talking some Texans basketball as well. And Bill Bender from Sporting News, talking some Olympics with us as well. Our producer, Frankie B, thanks so much to him. I'm Craig Mish. As I mentioned, we'll be back here for another edition of NewsWire tomorrow, covering the Olympic Games in Paris. And we'll tell you if Team USA ended up covering that 29.5-point spread, one of the biggest spreads we've seen in the Olympics in a long time against South Sudan. All the live coverage for you in the sports betting options on Farrell Coast to Coast for that game and all of the Olympics at 3 o'clock Eastern today. Hope you have a great day, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.